Hi, welcome to the video tutorial Spring Boot RESTful Web Services for Beginners with me, Namamin from CodeJava.net. In this video, you will learn how to code the first RESTful Web Services API running as a Spring Boot application using Eclipse IDE. So, why Spring Boot? Spring Boot is an application framework that really simplifies Java Enterprise application development because it provides default configurations and implements best practices so programmers can focus on developing business logic. And REST stands for Representational State Transfer. REST is a de facto standard for web-based API development. REST is widely adopted and popular because of its simple, lightweight performance, scalability, and reliability. And throughout this video tutorial, you will see Spring Boot really simplifies RESTful Web Service API development. Here's what you will learn in this tutorial. Create the first RESTful API with Spring Boot and test the RESTful API using a CURL program. And more than a Hello World tutorial, you will learn the fundamental Spring APIs for developing RESTful Web Services APIs. To follow this tutorial, make sure that you have the following software programs installed on the computer. Java Development Kit version 1.8 or newer. Eclipse IDE version 2019 September or newer. And CURL program. If you are using Windows 10, then CURL is already shipped with the operating system. If not, you need to download and install CURL program on your computer. This is Eclipse IDE on my computer. First, let's create a Maven project. For a Spring Boot project, we can go to the Spring Initialize tool to generate the skeleton of the project. So open a web browser and go to start.spring.io. You see, this is the Spring Initializer tool that lets you create initial code of a Spring Boot project. So here you can see I choose the language is Java, project type Maven, Spring Boot version 2.2.2, and now I enter the group ID is net.code.java. Artifact ID is hello REST, and we specify the dependencies here. For a Spring Boot application that hosts RESTful Web Services API, we can use a Spring Web dependency. So click here to add a Spring Web dependency, and by default the Java version is Java 8 here. Okay, and click the generate button here to generate the code. Hello REST here. So I install to my directory. Web service is save. Okay. Open the folder. And here you can see the hello REST zip file here. Extract here. So, and we have a directory hello REST here that contains some initial code for a Spring Boot project. Now in Eclipse IDE, we import that project. Go to menu file, import, and check the option import projects from folder or archive. Next, back, import project from folder or archive. Next, okay, and enter the directory hello rest here. Select folder and click finish. So here we have the Hello REST project imported to Eclipse IDE. And you can see Java version is 1.8, and this is a Maven project object model file, pom.xml file. Open it and we see yeah, the content of the pom.xml file that specifies the dependencies for Spring Boot. You can see the parent here. The parent section here is Spring Boot starter parent version 2.2.2 and Java version 1.8, and this is a dependency. This is a dependency for Spring Boot starter web. We only need this dependency to develop RESTful web services application with Spring Boot. We don't need Spring Boot starter test, so delete this dependency. Okay, save the file, and we see when we automatically download the required Java files. Yeah, you see a lot of Java files. We got error in the test folder because we don't use test, so delete this package. Delete. Okay. Okay, so that's we have created the maven project for Spring Boot application using the Spring initialized website here to generate the project code and then import into our Eclipse IDE. Look at the source directory. You can see Spring initialized to automatically generate this class Hello REST application, which is the main class to start to run our Spring Boot application. You see, it is very simple using the annotation the Spring Boot application. Now let's code our first Hello World RESTful web services. Create a new. Sorry, I changed the package name. Refactor. Rename. Code Java.net. WS. Okay. Continue. Okay, and now I create a new Java class here. Enter the name as Hello Controller and click Finish. And here we go. This is Java class that acts as a Spring MVC Controller to handle requests from the clients, and use the REST controller annotation to annotate this class. Yeah. So all the methods in this class will be exposed as RESTful web services methods. And now let's write our first method use request mapping annotation and specify a relative URL. For example, /hello, and then the method public string hello, and this method return a string hello over RESTful with Spring Boot. You see, that's it. This is a simplest form of a RESTful web service API with Spring Boot. You can see the REST controller annotation here. Specifies that this class will handle requests and produce responses following REST style. And the hello method will handle HTTP GET request with URL ending in /hello. The annotation request mapping specifies that this method will handle GET request HTTP GET request by default. Okay, so that's very simple. And now we can test our first RESTful web services API. We will need to run this main class run as Java application. Where you see the Spring Boot logo appears, and there are some login messages in the console view here. You see, and you can see this line. Tomcat started on port 8080. That means our Spring Boot application is up and running, and it started Tomcat server listening on port 8080. So we can access our web application RESTful API via this port 8080. Okay, so we can test this hello world RESTful web service using browser. Open a new tab here and type the URL http localhost port 8080/hello, and you can see the server response hello world RESTful with Spring Boot, which exactly is a string returned from this hello method here. That means our first RESTful API method has run successfully, and you can use CURL to test. So in Eclipse, I open a new terminal view as a terminal, open, and I create a new terminal here. Okay, I'm running a Windows operating system, so it displays the Windows command prompt. Then I can use a CURL command to test the RESTful web service API. CURL http localhost 8080 hello, and you can see the response from the server hello world RESTful with Spring Boot. Very good, right? Now we will go beyond a simple hello world RESTful web services API, exploring the fundamental APIs provided by Spring Framework to building RESTful APIs. Next, let's see how to read a request parameter from a web service method. We can use a request param annotation. So let's modify this method using the request param annotation here, and specify the name of the parameter in the URL is name, and map it to a variable string name. We can also specify the default value in case the parameter doesn't exist. Default value is, for example, default value is world, and in this method we return hello plus name. Okay, that's it. And because we are running a Spring Boot application, so we need to terminate the program and start again. Hello REST application. Okay, now we can test in terminal view. Yeah, using same command cll. You can see the server now responds hello world, and now I specify a query parameter name here, name equal now, and you can see the server responds hello now. Name Kevin. Hello Kevin, you see. So to read a request parameter, we can use a request param annotation here to map a request parameter as a Java variable as a parameter in the method. Next, let's see how to code a RESTful API that handles different HTTP methods. And you know, Spring Framework provides these annotations: get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, and delete mapping that correspond to HTTP method. So in our RESTful controller here, the request mapping annotation is the standard annotation of Spring Framework, and we can, and by default this annotation handles HTTP request. And for RESTful web service API, we can use replace this using get mapping and the URL. Okay, and to handle HTTP post, you can use a post mapping annotation here with the same URL. Yeah, public chain do post return post respond from post. You have sent post request. This is a response from the server, and we do the same to handle different HTTP methods. We use put mapping And basically, with REST style, REST mapping is to read information for retrieval operation, and the post method is for create a new resource. So we change the method to add, and put is used to update a resource. So we change the method to update. You have send put request, import put mapping. And the next method we use the delete mapping to handle HTTP delete method. And you have send delete a request. So you can see with the same URL but handle different HTTP methods: get, post, put, delete. Now let's restart the application and test again. Hello REST application. Yeah, with the same URL, and this, by default, you see this command we send HTTP GET request. You can use the V option to see the verbose output. You can see. You can see the HTTP method of the request is GET here. Now let's try to test with post request. So with CUL we can specify the X option to specify HTTP method post, and you can see response from the server. You have sent post request. Similarly, we send a put HTTP request here, and you can see the response from server. You have sent put request, and invoke the API with delete HTTP method, and you see the server response. You have sent delete request. So that's how to handle different HTTP methods for our RESTful webservices API. Next, let's learn how to use Spring RESTful webservices API to write JSON data to the response and read JSON data from the request. Okay, come back to our project. I delete this method. Stop the application, and I create a simple Java domain model class here. New class product, and this class has three fields: ID, name, and price of a product. And let's generate meta and set generate meta and setters. Check all fields. Generate and generate constructor. Right click, source, generate constructor using fields. generate. Okay. Spring uses the JSON library to serialize Java object to JSON representation and vice versa. So let's modify this method to return the product object and change URL to product public product product and return a new product object, new product ID 1, name is iPhone and the price is 99.99. Okay, that's it. And then Spring will automatically convert this return product object into JSON representation. Now let's test run application. Okay, open terminal and now type the command curl http localhost 8080 get product, and you can see the server responds with JSON representation of the product object. You see the field ID, name, and price with corresponding values here. 1 iPhone 9999.99. So that's very simple to send JSON, to send the object in form of JSON representation, automatically done by Spring Framework. Very easy, right? And let's modify this method to return create a second method to return a list of products. Create products S, and here we return a list of product. List product and create a new list product equal new array list. Return products, and we add just 2 products to the to this list. New product ID 1 is Kindle Fire, price is 90.98, and the second product is for example Xbox 360, price is 300. Okay, now on our application, in test, now we type the URL ending with get products, enter, and you can see the server response JSON representation of Java collection. You see, and product 1, ID 1, ID 2, yeah, 2 products. Next, let's see how to write code to read JSON data from the request and convert JSON data to Java object. stop the application, and now I write another method, a new RESTful API that allows the client to add a new product. So I use a annotation post mapping. Here we add product public. I add product, and to read JSON data to a Java object, serialize JSON to Java object. We use a request body annotation. Then the type of Java object and a variable name. So this method will read the request body, serialize JSON data in the request body to a Java object of type product. And in this method, we simply print the content of the product object. So we need to generate a toString method in this domain model class. Right click, source, generate toString method. Yeah. Oh, generate. Okay. Now we start our Spring Boot application. Okay, now let's type command to invoke that RESTful web services API to add a new product, COL, and the method is post, and I need to specify the edge option to specify the content type header in the request application JSON, and the D option to specify the data included in the request body, because we send JSON. So here I type JSON representation of a product object ID for name is, for example, Honda Civic, and price is 30,000, and then the URL of the API, HTTP localhost 80 add product, and enter. And you can see in the console view of the server, you can see it prints the information of the product sent from the client. ID for Honda Civic, price 30,000 here. Exactly. Very good, right? So you can see serializing JSON to Java and Java to JSON done automatically by Spring RESTful Web Services API. So our task is very easy. Next, let's see how to explicitly specify the content type of the request and response. Okay, go back to our code. And I delete this method. For example, to specify content type of the request sent to this method, we need to use the consume attribute of the mapping annotation. So we need to explicitly specify the attribute value in the URL, and consume is a content type. For example, we specify that the server will accept only the content type sent from the client is text HTML, for example, media type from Spring API, our Spring Framework.http here, text HTML value. So the client must send a request with content type text HTML. If not, the server will reject the request. Okay, save the file and let's start the application to test. Here I type this command to invoke the RESTful webservices API. Get product and hit enter. Sorry, I need to use URL. And you can see the server returns a message unsupported media type, content empty, not support. You see, content empty, not supported. That means we need to specify the content type in the request using curl command here. Curl h content type text HTML and URL. Enter, and you can see the server now respond with JSON data because the content type of the request is accepted by the server. Here you see content type accepted by the server is text HTML here. And to explicitly specify the content type of the response, we can use the attribute produce of the mapping annotation here. For example, I specify the produce attribute. This attribute specifies the content type of the response. In this method, the content type of the response is JSON, so we choose application JSON value. You see. Now let's create another method with different. Let's modify this method. This method we produce response with content type text HTML. Text HTML value. Yeah. And it returns a string. And it returns an HTML string. For example, HTML. This simple HTML page REST Spring Boot title REST. Okay, save and run this application. With the content type of the response is text HTML, we can test using a web browser like Chrome. So here my Chrome browser, and we find the URL is get product. Get product. Get product. Get mapping. I think the get mapping annotation doesn't work with text HTML, so we specify XML instead. Text XML value. Yeah. For example, this here XML element. Stop server and run again. Sorry. Stop and run again. Okay, refresh browser. You see, now the server returns XML, and you can see the put in the browser here. Let's test using CLL. Yeah, you can see it returns XML, and we can use a V option to see the robust output, and you can see the content type of the response is text XML here. You see exactly what we specify in the method using the produce attribute. Here you can see. So that's now to specify the content type of the request and response explicitly. Next, let's see how to explicitly specify HTTP status code for the response in the RESTful Web Services API. Go back to our Eclipse IDE here and stop the application. Now I write a new method. Mapping. URL is products / ID. This is a placeholder for the path element in the URL. So to be able to explicitly specify HTTP status code for the response and include JSON data in the response body, we use a response entity class response entity with the type is our domain model class. For example, product. We add product, and we use path variable annotation to map the value of the path variable to a method and parameter. Here is the ID of the product. And in this method, if the product is found with a given ID, we return the response with HTTP status OK to our including the JSON representation of the product. Else, if the product not found, we return HTTP status 404 not found. So, for example, if ID equal 3, in this case, the product is found, so we create a new product object, product equal new product ID 3. Name is, for example, Kindle file is 99.88, and we return a new response entity with body is a product object and HTTP status OK. Status OK is 200. Else, which means the product not found, we return HTTP status 404. Return new response entity product with only HTTP status, for example, not found. This is new. Okay, now we can run our application to test. Hello REST application. Here I type the command product follows by the ID. RESTful ID 1 and use the V option to see the verbose output. And you can see the server response send the response with the status 404 not found here because the product with ID 1 not found. Test another with ID 2 and you see the HTTP status code is still 404. And now let's try to test with ID 3. With ID 3 and you see the server return HTTP status OK to all here and response representation of product object here. You see, very good, right? So that's how to explicitly specify HTTP status code for our RESTful API. So that you have learned developing the first RESTful web services API with Spring Boot, and beyond a simple hello world example, you learned the fundamental APIs provided by Spring to build RESTful web services API. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to click the subscribe button below to subscribe to my channel. Goodbye.